What's up, fam? It's Chappell back again for another episode of Recap Kickback. This time, bringing you something that we have been promising for a while, that we've been talking about for a while. We've gotten plenty of comments and emails and all kinds of suggestions about having to do this. And so I never thought the day would come, but we are talking about the Boondocks. Episodes 1 and 2. That's the premiere of the Boondocks, episode 1 and 2, as a way to kind of wrap up this season of, I guess, satire that we've been talking about. So these last couple podcasts, our Thursday episodes, have been dedicated to shows that are satire, but were not well received by the public. First, we talked about Good Times Black Again, which we know got a lot of critical response from a lot of people. People were boycotting it. And then the following episode, we talked about the Magical Association of American the Magic Black Folks. We talked about that movie as well, and we had some opinions about it. You can check that out, the American Society of the Magical Negroes, right there. But here we are going to be talking about the Boondocks, which is well, we will save our opinions for the Boondocks for the podcast. One thing I will say before we jump right in is that trigger warning. This is your first content warning here on Recap Kickback. It's about to get real. Okay, we're about to let down some of the guards, take the kid gloves off, and we're really going to talk about the show, and we're going to match the energy of the Boondocks. That is my disclaimer for you. If you watch the Boondocks and that's not for you, neither is this podcast. If you watch the Boondocks and you thought, hey, that is for me, that content, the language, the words, all that stuff is for me, here you are. So this is your last chance to tap out. If this is not for you, we will see you next week on Recap Kickback, where we discuss something else that might be a little bit up your alley. Now, that being said, let's bring in my co-host with the most, my partner in crime. I guess if I am Riley Freeman, this is Huey Freeman, or Huey Freeman in woman form. It's Mari. Mari, what's up?
I'm good. I'm here to talk about the Boondocks. Rewatching it after, oh my god, when did it premiere? 2010, I believe.
Listen, don't let me get this wrong. It was prior to 2010, though.
I'm pretty sure it was somewhere around there. But
yeah, because it was in 2005. Mari, you be late to the party. God, 2005. I was definitely in high school. 2005? Not to age myself. Yeah, this was.
Why do I feel like this was a college thing? Maybe we just
this was after Ray, but before the Ray that you thought Ray had. You remember?
Yeah, I just need to stop guessing like years, basically. Yeah, but no, I did watch the Boondocks when it came on. I just didn't know the year. Because I think it's because, like I said, with Ray, I associate watching things with time periods in my life. And we used to watch the Boondocks in college just over and over again. Everybody would come over and watch it over and over again. But anyways, to revisit it almost 20 years really it was good. I was like, oh wow. Episode 2, I was like, I didn't realize this was episode 2.
Yeah, right out the gate.
Yeah, right out the gate. So.
And so Mari gets a trip down memory lane all the way back to the year of our Lord 2005, and we have with us our third co-host here, who has admitted several times he hasn't seen the Boondocks. He doesn't know these people, and it's not familiar to him. So I'm dying to talk about it with Tyrone. Tyrone, welcome back. What's up, Ty?
I'm excited, man. This is dope. I've never watched the Boondocks before until recently. I watched a couple of episodes, try to get my feet wet or whatever the case may be. And actually, I'm gonna walk something that Chappell said back a little bit, because if you've watched the Boondocks and it's not for you, but we some niggas that you trust, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Look, the disclaimer is specifically for the language. I recently read Kenan Thompson's book, and Kenan Thompson has made a very long storied career about being, a very I guess he's not a spicy comedian. You know what I'm saying? He's very family friendly. And I try to give family friendly with that devil wink, but this is about to be, just do not let your children listen to this. If they love Chappell talking about all the goofy stuff and Survivor and they're 14-year-old, maybe this ain't for them. Because I'm about to talk about my favorite moments in the Boondocks, Mari, and It's a lot of them, and they're good, and they're not
scared.
clean. Yeah,
Capture the artistry of the show. We got to capture the essence of the show as we talk about it. So of course, we got to go there. Of course.
Yes. And so if you're listening to this, strap in. But also thank you for tuning in every week to Recap Kickback, leaving us the reviews, leaving us emails, the comments, all the subscriptions. Listen, it all matters. It all counts. And we have a lot to talk about. So one thing, we got an email from Laura. It says, "Hey, you guys, just got caught up on the Recap Kickback. Guys, so I'm not a part of the Hive, but I did love listening to the panel discussion about Beyonce and listen to several of the songs that were mentioned. She doesn't sound country, but this is a country album. I didn't know that Lou Gossett Jr. had died, who was a great actor, and I'm about to watch Shirley. You guys are awesome over at the Recap. So informative. Please have Sasha back on the show. She's so funny. Love you guys." There you go.
Awesome.
So thank you, Laura, for that.
Thank you.
That's Sasha's burner account, by the way. She's just
Right.
trying to get back on the podcast. But yes, thank you for the feedback. Again, if you want to email us, recapkickback@gmail.com. We also got a email from Trevor States. Trevor says, "Loving the Recap Kickback. Please make the top 5 Boondocks episode happen." So listen, there's 4 seasons of the Boondocks. We're gonna talk about some of the best moments or whatever, but Ty hasn't done enough research to really get into the top 5 moments. Like them fighting words, if you get them answers wrong, Mari.
Yeah. A top 5 Boondocks episodes. I know at least 3 of my favorites, so that would be very fun to do, actually. Yeah. So once I come back and once Ty watches everything, that's what we'll do.
It gives me enough time to catch up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And and for the uninitiated, for the people who do not know, our time with Mari is limited. Mari, you have some big news.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking about it. Yeah. So, depending on when you listen to this, I mean, I have either given birth or I'm about to give birth. So I'll be on maternity leave at least until like June-ish. So, the Chappell officially has the keys. So I mean, it is his show. He been had the keys, but there's nobody to like stop him.
Yeah. It's
at the end of the party.
What a perfect podcast episode to be like, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. This is what happened when Mari leaves. We talk about the Boondocks. Yeah, Mari's definitely the person at the party who turned the lights on and was like, "All right, y'all, it's time to go." Whereas I'm the person at the party, it's dark and I got sunglasses on and I'm just dancing in the middle, like, wait, where's everybody going? So yes.
Right.
So congratulations to Mari. She's
enjoy.
in our prayers. Yeah, but we're gonna have a little fun while she's gone. But I want to talk about these episodes of the Boondocks. The first episode, which I believe is the garden party, and the second episode, which is the R. Kelly trial. I want to talk about these episodes, but I do want to talk about how it does compare to, some of the feedback and the criticism we had for Good Times, Black Again, and the American Society of Magical Negroes, because we were at best neutral on some of parts of those two things, but I don't think anybody that we talk to has been high on those things. And so I want to talk about the Boondocks because for the most part, you don't get a lot of complaints about the Boondocks, but I will take this back to 2005. The Boondocks was definitely not received well at first. People were boycotting it, and they allude to people boycotting the Boondocks and complaining about the Boondocks in the actual show. Mari, I believe it's the episode where Jasmine has a lemonade stand, and every morning Huey listens to the radio and he puts his jacket on. It's the middle of the summertime. If you're confused, watch the episode, you'll see. But every episode he listens to something, and the radio guy's like, "Yep, some man named Reverend Al Sharpton's up in arms again, complaining about some cartoon." You would think he had better things to do as a man of God. He was talking about the Boondocks. They were really outlining how some people were not a fan of this kind of content and the jokes and the way it was presented. So it's not out of the question for people to feel this way about satire, Mari.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how, history, and the further you get away from it, how you can kind of forget, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like the I Have a Dream speech, everybody loves it now. Forgot, like, people didn't love Martin back then. So it's the same thing. I do remember like the Boondocks being semi-polarizing back then. And again, I think it's truly because back then the people who didn't like it did not understand the satire behind it. You know what I'm saying? And so it's so easy to fall into not knowing the satire and thinking that everything is genuine, and then being like, well, this isn't a good representation of Black people, which is what, you know, they were saying. So it's so funny to think how universally loved it was and received in my circle, in my community. And then as soon as you said that, I was like, I remember all of that. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, people had a lot of complaints. And even, I mean, if you really look back at history, the NAACP wanted to boycott the original Good Times as well, because it wasn't a great depiction of a Black family because they were impoverished. Ty, this was your first time sitting through a couple full episodes of the Boondocks. Did you feel any strong differences between the way the Boondocks maybe presented what would be looked at as problematic from society standpoint to like maybe like Good Times, where, you know, kind of like the first thing that jumps out to me is that in Good Times Black Again, we had a drug dealing baby, but in the Boondocks we have an 8-year-old who is liable to pull out a gun and cuss you out. Yeah, so why is there such a big difference in the way two of these things are absorbed?
You know, I don't know if I was able to capture the exact reason why I felt a difference. And honestly, speaking of like forgetting, you know, what we thought of things back then, or being open to things as we are in our older age, or whatever the case may be. I'm Mari. When we watched Good Times Black Again, you specifically was upset about the booty jiggle. And it was a shadow. But the first 4 minutes of Boondocks, he's doing karate jump in the living room,
butt naked,
playing peekaboo with us.
Yeah. Hey, that was funny. I mean, like,
it's art.
I'm not seeing cartoon simulated sex personally. That might be where I draw the line.
And honestly, maybe that's the answer to your question, Chappell. Is the hilarity of it was definitely on a higher level in Boondocks than it was in the other things that we've talked about so far. Like, I was dying laughing at that first episode. I could not stop laughing at it. And so that might be the answer, is like, you can go that far possibly to certain people. Obviously, there was some disdain for it early on, but you could possibly go that far with certain people if it's funny, if the satire hits. And that might be the issue that we're coming across, is that the satire might not have necessarily hit specifically with Good Times.
Yeah, and you bring up a very good point, Ty, because if we're kind of comparing the three properties that we watched that were about satire, to me, Good Times Black Again pushed it too much, like just pushed the satire way too much, way past the point. Like, was it supposed to be satire? Was it supposed to be straight up comedy? To the point where if it's supposed to be straight up comedy, you know, comedy is subjective, to the American Society of Magical Negroes, where we were like, they didn't push it nearly enough, wasn't funny at all. And Boondocks kind of slides in the middle by finding a middle ground where the satire is overt while being funny, while also making you think if you really want to think. So
and to that point, right? Think if you want to think, right? And so to that point, I remember at the end of I didn't like the second episode of Boondocks. I didn't like the R. Kelly episode.
What?
I actually fell asleep. I actually fell asleep on it.
Fell asleep on it. And y'all brought up it came out in 2005. That was my freshman year of college, right? And so at this point in my age, I have not to be punny, but I've survived the R. Kelly era, and that's not to diminish the actual true survivors of it. So the R. Kelly era is kind of like out of sight, out of mind. There's no debate. There's no the nigga wrong. There's no no illiterate side of right and support for him, and the literate side of not support for him. There's no sides. It's the nigga is wrong. And so at this point in the stage, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand, right? And I understood that it came out back then, but I kind of fell asleep on it. But at the end of the episode, there was a conclusion that they came to where it was like a message that was sent where he was like, hey, these are people, even though you don't agree with them,
still gotta love him, right? He, like
Uncle Ruckus. Yeah.
Freeman is playing right with, playing checkers with Uncle Ruckus, you know what I mean? Like after the first episode. So that was the message that I understood came from it, whether I agree with it or not. When I saw Good Times Black Again, I didn't get a message. I just got maybe information. And it was like, okay, we want you. I don't know if they want me to go research this. Do they want me to come to a solution? Do they want me to come to a conclusion of something? Or do they want me to talk about it in my family household and then grow it beyond there? I don't know what they're trying to say to me.
Right.
And I think we talked about that in that when we talked about that in the episode too. So I think that's where I came from with it.
And we're not going to step on Chappell's toes. We will definitely get to the R. Kelly episode and break all of that down.
We sure will. Because hey, I got some context for that episode as well to talk about. But yeah, I think I hear both of you what y'all are saying, and I think my issue, I think Mari hit the nail on the head with the American Society of Magical Negroes. It almost felt earnest. And so when you're watching it, you feel like someone is really telling you that, no, this is where your black magic comes from. You this is what you should use it for, because you could see so many parallels in real life. Like, yes, white people feeling uncomfortable is dangerous to black people. It just is, because that's when they call the police. The police feel uncomfortable. They pull their guns, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand that. But am I laughing at that? Not really. You could paint that in a way to where I don't feel like I'm the victim of that, and maybe I will laugh. Whereas, I feel like Boondocks Black Again to me felt more like a cartoon than the Boondocks. Good Times Black Again. I'm sorry. Yeah, but it felt more like a cartoon to me than the Boondocks. The Boondocks feels like an animated sitcom. They wake up, they're doing human things. It's absurd human things, but it's still human things that can happen, right? Whereas Good Times Black Again, they were talking cockroaches. The nun just robbed this man out of the taxi. He just jumped the fence, like that kind of thing. Like the baby is selling drugs. Like these things are so far removed from reality. There's yes, there's satire, but also it's like a cartoon. And I think at our ages, it's kind of like, do you want a cartoon that gives you cartoon energy, or a cartoon that gives you maybe sitcom energy? Like Mari, I know you're a big adult animation person, but one of my favorite cartoons is BoJack Horseman, and I love BoJack. I love it because I understand that character on a deep level. Like nobody will understand BoJack like I understand BoJack, but it's cartoony. But the storyline itself is such a sitcom, right? Where it's you understand, and it gets so dramatic as well. Whereas Good Times Black Again, I felt like you can follow the storyline through, but it's surrounded by so many antics that it really just takes away from there is a message there, and I think that's what I'm lacking in it.
The question you come away with is, how serious are we supposed to take this?
Right.
That's the question I'm asking myself when I watch it.
And it's the medium of animation. It's what was it? The creator of Disney's Golden Era talks about how animation is like the future in the forefront when it comes to medium, because you can stretch the imagination and use it to do things that you can't do in the real world. And that's good when we're talking Disney fairy tales, but when we're talking about something that is supposed to, from what the creator told us, is supposed to make us think and stuff like that, when you have such outlandish animated things like Chappell's pointing out, the talking cockroach stuff that is tailor-made for that medium, it automatically kind of takes it down a little bit. It automatically takes it into a realm where, unfortunately, animation is seen as maybe a lesser medium. So it's like it can come off not kiddie, but it definitely comes off like I'm not supposed to take you seriously. That it's almost like how we are hardwired. It's like, I'm not supposed to take you seriously because you are doing things that are just completely unimaginable to the real world. You're doing something that would only exist in an animated show. And then on top of that, we talked about it, but there are so many things layered on top of each other in a way that just, wasn't as cohesive. So if we said it, if they had taken a few things away at certain times, maybe we could have seen the underlying message, but it was so much going on. We almost were we couldn't really focus. And I agree with you with BoJack and the Boondocks in a sense of you almost forget that the medium is animation
Mhm.
because it feels like this is real. It feels like this is some real stuff while also keeping a perfect balance of tone where there is actual satire and there is comedy and you can actually pinpoint what they're being exaggerative of. Like it's
Mhm.
such a tightrope balancing act that it's so hard to get right nowadays.
Yeah,
That
and I agree
that's the
'cause
line right there. I'm sorry, that's the line.
yeah,
You can pinpoint exactly what they're exaggerating. That's
Mhm.
right.
the line. That's it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the shows highlight that. With the Boondocks, you definitely get moments where it's depicted as this is a cartoon, and then all of a sudden you have like the moments where the music changes and you hear the underlying like tone kind of take the lead of the episode, right? So it's like all this, like you got R. Kelly up on the thing dancing, da 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 da, but then you shift it, and then at the end you have Huey monologuing about
Mhm.
the people who are like an Uncle Ruckus character in their relationships, that kind of thing. Those monologuing moments is kind of like the sobering moments, right? And I think BoJack is very cartoony. It is very like outlandish, absurd, but it has so many of those sobering moments. So many, and that's a crazy pun. Didn't mean to say sobering for BoJack, but like it just is.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
so
BoJack
many
is
moments.
a satire within itself because it's
Exactly.
anthropomorphic animals that are then doing human things. So it's like they don't even
Exactly.
have to do much.
Right. But
Yeah.
it feels like Good Time. And then, the other feedback we got, of course, about Good Times Black Again is that they should have named it Good Times. I think that a lot of people go in, they hear Good Times, and they think of the good times that they know. Right. And so even though it was pushed back against in the real time, people came to love it and appreciate it. Even if they don't like the show, people that never seen Good Times could tell you Good Times is one of the best sitcoms, black sitcoms of all time, blah, blah, blah. Like people will always be able to tout it in the conversation for like legendary black sitcoms.
And similar to what you were talking about around sobering moments, although Good Times, the whole damn show is a sobering moment, but
Every second.
every time. But at the end of each show, for most of the shows, there was usually a dialogue between the characters on the show that expressed the message that they wanted to send you off with. And that's the same thing that we're looking for here is what is that message? And if it's cartoonish, where are you exaggerating it? Can we pinpoint it? And are we good to go there? So I think, and the Black Again, I hate it. I'm sorry. Please.
Yeah, it's like, what does that mean? Anyway, okay. That said, we got a lot of the commentary out of the way, but we do have to eventually talk about the episodes. And so the first episode, the dinner party, Mari, this is the episode that popped off the Boondocks. I remember Cartoon Network advertising this episode was about to drop. I remember leading up to it the week of seeing the commercials of Huey Freeman saying, Jesus is black, the government lied to you about 9/11, and Ronald Reagan is the devil.
Yep.
And that was the commercial they were playing on a loop. And to see the way the white people were reacting at the dinner party and stuff like that, it was like, yeah, do I need to be watching this? Let me go watch this. And so I was very excited when I realized that, oh my God, that was the premiere episode. We really about to jump into one of my favorite episodes of the Boondocks. Like, it's not a top 5 episode to me, but I know it by heart, Mari. This is one of those ones that you just never forget.
Yeah, I do remember watching Garden Party, but I remember being that excited for it and then being like, okay, like you know what I'm saying. I would say that for me, episode 2 is better, and I just looked at like I just reminded myself like what's next, and I mean that first season is just
Bangers.
banger after banger after banger, like wow. Um, episode 1 does set up the dynamics, I think, but in a way that's like not too much, right? So it's like it's very smooth. Like you get Granddad is just extra. I honestly think this is a Granddad's episode, kind of. He's just so extra, talking about how he moved them into this nice white neighborhood, and y'all gotta behave. And then you get Huey's like black revolutionary, and you just get a sprinkle of Riley just being the complete opposite of that, and it just works. You get the introduction of Uncle Ruckus, and so this is a great opening episode. And the fact that the season takes off after it is just I'm definitely gonna go back and start watching this again, especially on my leave. I have I have a list
Plenty of
of stuff I gotta
time.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, yeah, so let's jump into the cast. So episode 1, we're going to encounter our main characters in Huey Freeman, Riley Freeman, Granddad, and then to a lesser extent Ed Wuncler Sr. So if you cannot catch the voice, if you're completely unfamiliar with the Boondocks, welcome. We're about to give you a class on the Boondocks and everything you need to know about it. But if you've already seen the show, you know what I'm about to say. Regina King plays both Huey and Riley Freeman. And this is like, as far as I'm concerned, this is a role that she will be known for the rest of my life. Ty, she is having these dialogues and these sibling debates with herself throughout this entire cartoon for 4 seasons. And it's so good.
Regina, I'm sorry, I was not aware of your game.
I was not familiar with your work, baby. Yeah,
with your work, yo. When I don't think I caught it. I definitely didn't catch that it was Regina King as I watched the first episode. When I saw the credits, that's when I was like, "Oh snap!" Yeah, and for her to be able to play, like Mari was talking about, the dynamic between these two siblings is super dope. To be able to speak the language of the young kids that probably would think this certain way, and with a little bit of an adult mind attached to it, I would say, because a little bit grown, Huey, especially Huey, right? That it's amazing. I thought they did awesome. I definitely can't wait till we talk about probably one of my favorite characters a little bit later on in the episode. But I rocks with Regina on this one. She definitely killed it. And I'm excited. It makes me excited to watch more episodes beyond the content that was expressed. Just hearing her express herself within these two characters, I want to see how they grow.
Yeah. She does a great job. I mean, it is what it is. You hear her voice, and then you hear her voice playing against its own self. You hear her saying words you never thought we would hear her say. And you're just like, man, like, she gets it. She's okay. I feel it. And, she really ate this role. But the Boondocks is about these two kids. Riley and Huey Freeman have moved to Woodcrest with their granddad, who is played by one of our legends, our late legends, John Witherspoon. John Witherspoon passing away was very sad to me. We've watched a lot of John Witherspoon between the three of us, but for some reason, like, that's Pops and that's Granddad, and so Mari, that was the one thing I didn't like about this rewatch. There are so many characters from the Boondocks that are no longer with us.
Yeah, but it is a way for their legacy to live on, and it just reminded me how funny that man is. He was in comedy for such a long time, and for him to bless us with so many legendary characters, that's what this is for. That's what this medium is for, is to remind you of his genius. And he's just so hilarious as a granddad.
He really is.
And he started so late in his comedic career. And just to see like everything just start to come natural for him, especially this particular role, like it's just a beautiful thing to see. The artistry is,
yeah.
And so in this episode, Riley and Huey are confronted with Granddad's new Woodcrest. He's moved them out into the suburbs. He said, "I spent all your inheritance on this house." And so, they will be getting nothing from this except to get to live in Granddad's whitewashed world where he thinks he's made it. This is like his idea of status. He's here to live in the white neighborhood and impress the white folks as well. And so the episode starts, as Ty has pointed out, with something that is actually not in the DVD cut. I forgot that Granddad was butt ass naked doing the Tybo. He said, "Thanks, Billy Blanks." I had the DVD and I think it was blurred. So I was shocked that HBO Max gave you a face full of junk. Yeah.
I had to watch it on Xfinity Stream on Adult Swim, so it was blurred for me.
Oh no, it's full on junk, Mari, and yeah. And Granddad says, "Why buy the tape when you can get the infomercial for free?" Yes. But yes, but this is how we're introduced to our characters. Granddad is absurd. He's yelling at the kids because they drank his orange juice. It's a full day supply of vitamin C, but he didn't get it because these ingrates, these grateful children are there and they are not taking his sacrifices for as seriously, and they're not appreciating him. Mari, he was attacked by dogs for this, for them to live this life.
Yes.
Dogs and fire hoses.
Dogs and fire hoses. He says, "Were you?" He's like, "What do you mean?"
Right.
Like,
Actually,
like, I think a whole generation of people take credit, but were you actually attacked by dogs and fire hoses? And the flashback was just hilarious. Oh my gosh!
That man said, "How you show up late to the rally?" I went to go get my my raincoat.
We've been watching the same shit on the news. Why you ain't bring your raincoat?
They've been doing this fire hose thing all week. He said, "Who bring this nigga went to get a motherfucking raincoat?"
Okay.
Young Robert Freeman said, "I bet you wish you had your raincoat right now." But the thing about the flashback we get is really a sobering look at Granddad and where he comes from, right? Because Granddad is the older generation telling you about how hard life was for him, how he's had to sacrifice, how he had to struggle, how he had to walk 15 miles in the snow to get to school just for us to have the creature comfort that we have right now. And Huey Freeman is the person who is supposed to be not the audience, but he's definitely supposed to be the guy with the Koofy saying message, he's the person who is supposed to be pulling back the wool on a lot of these issues. And in Good Times Black Again, we did kind of have that with Marseille's character as the daughter in that role, but it was so cartoonish. Like, she was so a part of the storyline in a lot of ways that it didn't feel like she was on the outside looking in at the shenanigans and highlighted them. She was almost a part of the shenanigans too much for me to take her seriously as like the Huey Freeman role. At least that's because I was trying to compare what she was talking about and what he was doing. And while they're both revolutionaries, it does hit a little different when it's coming from her versus him.
I think it hit you over the head too much with Marseille Martin's character. It's like every 2 seconds she has to remind you that she is the activist. She is this. When Huey has that silent, just that look that most of us get when we're around niggatry, and we're just like,
like I want to stop you, but I want to stop you, but do I feel like arguing with you right now? I guess I'll just say what I gotta say.
Sometimes you don't need to keep reminding people you're so different from these people. You know what I'm saying? Like, she says it, Huey shows it.
Right. But are you even that different? That's the thing. With Huey sitting here, Huey very much is on his high horse throughout this. He's going to be above all the rest of the stuff, but he is also going to be involved in a lot of the moments moving forward. Huey is not exempt. Huey's just like he's basically a baby Hotep, and it is what it is. He about one grand rising from pissing me off on the internet. You know what I'm saying? So I love Huey as a character, but Ty, he points out very quickly that the older generation has been taking credit for a lot of the struggles that happen, and we've seen the pictures of the dogs and the fire hose and stuff like that. But not every Black person had to go through that, and so thus, just by being older, it doesn't mean by virtue of that you have paved the way for Huey's generation. And I think he's right in calling Granddad out, but I think those moments are what resonates with new viewers.
Yeah, and it's he's coming from the idea, and I can recall this very vividly, especially of new generation Hoteps, in that where they have left us off at isn't that great, right? That's always been a conversation of new generation Hoteps. And so that's really the intent behind his words around, well, were you involved, or how much involved were you, or could you have done more? Is this the place that you worked hard for or fought hard for, or your people around you fought hard for? Is this where you were supposed to be, or where we want to be at? That's where his inquisitive nature is coming from. And so that's the part for sure. I would agree that resonates with me. Not that me being a Hotep, but because I've heard the same shit from other.
Yeah. That's going to be Huey throughout. of course, like I said, he's not like I don't want to say the straight character, like he's just like he sees all the BS, but because he does in his own way really feed into some of those things. For instance, in this episode, the family is invited to a dinner party by Ed Wunzler. Ed Wunzler Sr. So he is the richest man in Woodcrest. His family started this neighborhood, and he has made it his goal in life to make sure that this family that he has, this Woodcrest neighborhood, that he is selective over who gets to join the family conversations. And so now Granddad has to appease Ed Wunzler so that they can fit in. And Huey is going to stop at nothing to ruin all of that. So although he's not Riley, Mario, he's still bad as hell. Huey need his ass whooped.
Yeah, like through this whole meeting where Ed Wunzler is meeting with Granddad, Huey is lining up a shot with like he has a sniper scope trying to take Wunzler out. It's so funny. It's definitely shades of like it really made me think. I was like, did Boondocks do it first or the Family Guy? I'm pretty sure like I want to say around the same time. Yeah. But it was just funny. It was just a very, very funny bit. I also like when Granddad was like, "You want some cheese?" And he's like, "I would love some." Why do white people love cheese?
The new white man is distinguished. You know, he likes cheese. And Riley says, "We got Kraft and we got Velveeta." You know,
I couldn't believe that. Oh my god!
Ty, do you recognize the voice of Ed Wunzler Sr.?
I actually don't recognize the voice of Ed Wunzler Sr. Who is Ed Wunzler Sr.? Please tell me.
So Ed Wunzler is going to be played by the late Ed Asner, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He passed away years ago, but when I tell you Ed Wunzler Sr. is one of my favorite characters on the Boondocks, it's not even close. I need to just pull up a list of all his quotes because this man he's absurdly racist in a way that the woman from Everybody Hates Chris is as well. You know, like the actor, the teacher, where it's so racist that it's almost like if they not being racist, that then something's wrong. Kind of like waiting on the punchline because Ty, this man, if you paying really close attention, he calls Granddad free man, and he puts that space in between free and man.
Yep.
So almost has to remind you, like, and that's a slave name. You know.
I definitely peeped it. Yeah, it's a conversation that I've actually had before. It's like, would you prefer blatant racism or would you prefer like the secret racism, like the underhanded, racism? And I honestly would prefer the blatant racism. Like, I want to know what's in front of me. I like the enemy that I can see versus the enemy that I can't. And I can appreciate you having him as a favorite character. To be honest, the teacher on Everybody Hates Chris is probably one of my top characters on that show too.
Insane. Yeah, that lady's insane. But yeah, Ed Asner, most people probably remember him from like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, but I think of him as the old man from Up. You know, like that's I can't unsee it. And so seeing him back as Ed Wunzler Sr. here talking to Granddad and Huey and Riley, I'm like, yeah, we're back. I'd be lying if I said I only watched 2 episodes. I just kept on watching. I just hit next because it's so good. But they're invited to Ed Wunzler's dinner party. They will be the only Black people there, with the exception of the guy at the front gate, Uncle Ruckus. No relation, Mari.
No relation. He was the valet, right? Like he wasn't even security when like
he was just there.
He was just there with his tiny coat on. Yes, the introduction of Uncle Ruckus, and it's just so funny because you kind of forget that he's not like literally related to them just because we call him Uncle Ruckus all the time. But this is him meeting the Freemans for the first time and him basically being like, "You niggas can't come in here." Like that character is so ridiculous. And again, this is where you know where the satire is. This is the character that that everybody knows, but it's like to the 100th degree. Everybody has that relative or that cousin or that person they know who love to kiss the feet of the white man, but he's just so blatant with it. It's just hilarious. like how over the top he is with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know you don't recognize his voice, do you, Ty?
I don't, man. I felt like I recognized it when I first heard it, but I don't think so.
Oh yeah, this is a hard one. This is Gary Anthony Williams. People will know him as the flight attendant on Soul Plane, but also he's from Malcolm in the Middle. Gary Anthony Williams is, as far as I'm concerned,
Voice actor.
a voice actor, but also I see this man. He's black royalty. You know, he's been in so many shows as that guy, right? And so to see him do this voice actor as Uncle Ruckus, I was like, this is him. This is him. But he does such a good job. Him introducing them, basically introducing himself as Uncle Ruckus, asking them why, like, who let y'all niggas in the party, and then telling us that Ed Wuncler don't even let him use the front door. He called Granddad Mr. Tibbs, and I fell out my chair like I never heard him before. He called him Sid. They must think you fucking Sidney fucking Poitier. You know. Yeah, if your best hater is Granddad, is Uncle Ruckus, I think you're doing something right. But Tyrone, you got a lot of Uncle Ruckus in this episode. What'd you think?
The song just took me out, and I wish I remember the verses to it, but the song straight. Get ready, Chappell. I know you got it. But the song took me out. We've seen versions like we talked about Life, on a podcast before, right? And can't remember homeboy's name, but it's always the one that's kissing the feet that's not as nice as Boss. And so he's that version of this, obviously to an extremely exaggerated level. And I think the song takes it to the next level. And the fact that, and this is the part about the satire that I love. The crowd is not like up in a roar about it, like, oh my God, she's saying niggas on the mic, even whispering to each other, hey, just because they can say niggas, that means we can say niggas too. You know what I mean? That's what I love about it, is because it lets it run its course. If this was something that was real life, you wouldn't be able to finish the second word of the song. A whole 3 stanzas of this song. And it's beautiful. I loved it. I want more of it.
Yeah. Oh, if you continue to watch the Boondocks, you will hit Uncle Ruckus's greatest hits at some point, and you will get so used to this, because this man is a main character in the cast. Yeah. And Don't Trust Them New Niggas Over There is a bop. And so I know it by heart. I'm not gonna sing it here on the podcast, but make no mistake. If you don't know, go check it out. It's ridiculous. But so they get to the dinner party, and the whole time Granddad's trying to impress Ed Wuncler because, and also maybe find him a white woman with a flat booty to listen to his problems, so he has goals. Huey's goal is to systematically tear the dinner party apart by telling white people truths about white people that they are not ready to prepare, or prepared to digest. And then Riley gonna go play with the guns and Ed Wuncler's grandson, Ed the Third. Now, Mari. Yeah. Mari, Ed Wuncler the Third.
Yes. Another over the top exaggerated character that is like it was like looking into like the future of how hip hop has this is what you see when you look out into like the hip hop crowds now. Ed Wuncler the Third, Charlie Murphy, right?
Yes,
Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy. The fact that the Boondocks had Black voice actors playing white characters, I feel like I've never seen. Well, Cree Summer, but like it was just so hilarious. Textbook rich boy, like thinks he's a badass, but just so done just so differently. This was so funny. And Riley finding his counterpart. This will not be the last time that they cross paths and they get into a whole bunch of trouble together. It's a great character moment. Now I don't like Wuncler the Third because he's too much, but I love what he adds to the show. He's not my favorite character.
Yeah. Well, Ed Wuncler the Third, Riley will link up, and they will be a powerful team, including their friend their friend Rummy as well, who is played by Samuel L. Jackson, also a white man who will be saying the N-word a lot.
Yep.
And so between the two of them and Riley, just imagine the type of language that's flying off the handle. Ty, I know you loved Ed. I know you loved Ed the Third.
Yeah, I love Ed the Third. This is Malibu's Most Wanted. Like in the weird dynamic of this one that I did not expect is him being in the military. Usually when you come across these rich kids with this long money history and they family, they don't usually take the military route. They just sap off the teat of the father and end up running the business or whatever the case may be. Like he said, he was like, what'd he say? He's going to become president one day or whatever, and he's still going to be a jackass or something like that, right? So that's usually the route that they take. So the added element of the military, I'm intrigued by. I didn't like it at first. I was like, I don't know if that necessarily fits what I'm used to, but I am intrigued by where that goes, because obviously it led to a very iconic scene in this episode with the military weapons.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also a nod to, the rich people who will like live off their family name, politicians, right? Because Ed Senior at the end of this all says, and that guy is going to be the president of the United States, and he's still a fucking idiot, And the thing is, we've seen presidents of the United States that are former military who, don't have like, they're former military, right? And especially around 2005, we were definitely having conversations about that as well, right? With the president situation that we were in. So it's very much a nod to, sometimes these things just carry you through life. And so that's happening while Huey is, again, trying to disrupt the party as much as possible. So Mari, the government is lying to you about September 11th. Ronald Reagan is the devil, and Jesus is black.
666.
Yeah, exactly. Big agree. But listen, he's saying all these things, but he's just so well spoken, Mari. They're not going to listen to him. They don't care.
So articulate. He's so good. Like the fact that all they could say is, "Oh, he's so well spoken," and then them just clapping. I loved how Huey's like, they're rich. They're so rich. They don't care. They just clap at anything because it doesn't matter because they will always survive. I was like, yep.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's funny. Poor people problems is that they're really not. They're not really involved in any of that. They're listening to everything he has to say, and they're not even remotely disturbed. And he's going out of his way to disturb them, but he's not wrong. These people do not care about that kind of stuff. They don't care about anything because they're rich and they're white, and all they're going to do is keep applauding. So when we see Uncle Ruckus drunkenly fall off the stage performing Don't Trust Those New Niggas just seconds before Riley Freeman shoots Ed Wuncler III out of a window with a double barrel, they just keep clapping, they don't care. They're like, whatever, hey, it looks good to me.
No worries.
We've had speaking of, we've had Black Jesus on our television shows since OG Good Times. And the message still don't come across. It still don't come across because regardless of whatever's going on in the world, if you're rich, you control whatever the narrative is, and the narrative will continue to be top of the mind, right? So that's the situation. Dude got blown out the window and still clapping. Nobody cares. It's the same thing. Song probably still going on in the background. We just don't hear it. Like that's just what the world we live in. This is the perfection of satire. This is what it was supposed to be. You are getting the message across that you want to get. It's funny because you're trying to get that message across and it's just not happening. At the same time, you got all of this other shit that is going on in the background that kind of is like, all right, the message is not too strong to where I'm just like sitting here just thinking through like some sort of brainstorming session, or I just want to think all the time. I'm actually having fun while I'm doing this at the same time. That's where this episode hits. That's where the first episode is. More than anything that I can say about anything I've watched so far. So that's the essence of it right there.
Yeah. So that's the episode for. I mean, Riley shoots Ed out of the window. Everybody claps. Granddad apologizes. It's no hard feelings from Ed Wensler Sr. because guess what? He rich too, and he don't care. And so at the end of the day, Riley and Huey both realize that they don't want Granddad to lose their house. Huey should not be disrupting the party, trying to make the block hot for him and get him kicked out of here. They should be trying to let Granddad be happy and just live amongst the white people as much as Huey hates it, you know. And so that's episode 1. But episode 2, Mari.
Yeah.
Our episode 2 hit the streets like crack. Okay, in the 90s, in the 80s, early 90s. That episode 2, the R. Kelly trial. Listen, this was 2005. R. Kelly wasn't tried and sent to jail until 2016, something like that.
Well, because the first trial was around that time.
Exactly. So, it was prior to that for sure. Yeah, but so it's the time between this episode of the Boondocks and R. Kelly actually going to jail. 10 years have passed. So this conversation is happening way before the arguments are blatantly happening on social media, where this is happening on television. People are claiming R. Kelly's trying to buy CBS or whatever kind of BS they were trying to paint. Why is this black man being targeted? People were having those conversations on a smaller scale prior to social media. And the Boondocks really took a look at that and said, no, let's sensationalize this right now because it's coming. And Mari, there are so many moments in that episode where it kind of, because of recent events, it's kind of teetering into that. Is this satire, or y'all just telling us what happened? Because some of it might have just been what happened, Mari.
Well, I mean, if you look back at it, and if you've watched the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries, which you really should if you haven't, it dropped in it was around like 2019. It dropped like right before the pandemic.
Right before COVID, yeah.
Why do I keep trying to come up with years? Because it's gonna be wrong. But
anyway,
no,
that's actually my fault. R. Kelly got sentenced in 2022. And so his trial is right around that time. So yes, I said 2016, but I was actually off. It's almost
well, because remember he dragged it out. That the first trial got dragged out. The first trial he was going on trial in like 2002, but they dragged it out with like his tours and all of this, that he didn't get acquitted until 2008. So technically the Boondocks had prophesized all of this for first trial, and then he couldn't get away with it the second time because it's been 10 years, all that stuff. But anyways, the reason why a lot of people like the trial of R. Kelly, myself included, it is basically one of my favorite episodes of the Boondocks, definitely top 3. And I forgot that it was only the second episode of the whole entire series. Out the gate, I was like, you are coming. It's because of the absurdity of it, but also taking the mirror and really reflecting back, because I remember, and they, again, the reason why I said go check out the docuseries is they talk about it. R. Kelly's biggest supporters during that trial were Black women. Black women supported him throughout that trial. He got so much support throughout that first trial that the acquittal was celebrated, just like what happened on the Boondocks. And it's not until we've grown as a society of what we think, we have the introduction of this evidence through Surviving R. Kelly, that finally a reckoning came to him in 2022, but also the collective conscience of our thought process of how we treat him has changed. Now, that's not saying that everybody hates R. Kelly. I mean, that's still a thing today. It's like, I judge you heavy if you listen to him. So it's like, but it still isn't like back then where I remember everybody still supporting him. And I remember, I just remember all of this. I like, if you go and watch the docuseries, you remember people blaming the girl. You remember people blaming everybody about R. Kelly. Like, it was such a thing. And the Boondocks capturing the absurdity of us giving our support to somebody who's so clearly in the wrong in this episode, by doing it in a way that was funny, that was exaggerative, and then at the end gave you your lashings for it, was like pure perfection to me, especially satirical perfection, I think.
Yeah. Well, Ty, you said you didn't love the second episode. So tell me what it was about it that didn't speak to you.
It's hard for me to capture the essence of 2005 in 2024. Right. It's hard. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it, right? He just got indicted in 2022. So for me, like when I'm looking at the episode, I'm like, oh, it's over, right? I do recall these things, and Mari, you mentioned something earlier where there's still some people out there that listen to R. Kelly, and this is why it didn't hit for me, is because in 2005, now that I'm understanding that this is when it came out, in 2005, you could say you're still listening to R. Kelly proudly. Now, you can't necessarily do that. So all of the stuff that happens within the trial on the episode, it that's why it doesn't hit home. I get it though. Like I understand it. The way Mari explained it beautifully, you know, and how it is perfection and expressive of what was happening in 2005, and also having a little foresight, a la The Simpsons. But but that's why I just couldn't. It just didn't capture my attention, because I'm like, okay, been there, done that. I've heard all the jokes. I've seen all the trials. I've seen Surviving R. Kelly. I've been in arguments of should I listen to R. Kelly or not. I've completely shut down R. Kelly from everything that I've listened to for like a decade at this point.
Don't
you know,
don't miss him.
So that's the only reason that it just didn't hit home for me. I understand why it's in your top 3 though.
Well, let's talk about why it's in mine, okay? Because let me tell you something. This is some quality comedy. So the plot of this one is that R. Kelly's trial is coming to town. Why is it in Woodcrest? Who knows? But it is. District Attorney Thomas Dubois will be trying this. This is Tom. This is their next door neighbor from across the street. Basically, he lives next door with his across the street with his white wife Sarah. Then that matters, trust me. And his mixed child Jasmine. They all live together as a happy Dubois family. But he does not know, as Mari called it, the niggatry that's about to come knocking on his door, because R. Kelly is being tried for urinating on an underage girl, and everybody is not okay with it. Some people have huge issues with it. Mari, however, Granddad does not have an issue with golden showers. He's a big fan.
Yeah, I love golden shower. I like gold. I like shower. That sounds nice to me.
Yeah. And Riley is one of the big fans of R. Kelly. So throughout this, we will see Riley as the avatar for all the people who think that R. Kelly should not be locked up. To me, this is very clever in a very similar way that like the baby was selling drugs in Black Again. I thought like, oh, after a while I was like, oh, well, obviously he's a baby, but he's selling drugs, but he's very, very poor. Look at his family situation, right? Like there's talking cockroaches here. Let the baby make a little money on the side. I ain't tripping. But at first glance, that was probably bad. If you show a trailer of just Riley stumping for R. Kelly, you probably not going to isolate all of your viewers, but a lot of them probably not going to watch it. Not in 2024 for sure. Right. But this is 2005. So we get Riley. He makes his free R. Kelly sign. He's walking, he's picketing, and him and Tom Dubois have an interesting conversation because Tom feels like, hey, we're doing the right thing. This is the law. That's an underage child. Riley says to Tom Dubois, oh, so you mean to tell me I can pee in a toilet and it's okay, but if I pee on a person, it's like not okay? And Thomas says, absolutely. And he's like, okay, hear me out. So if me and Huey are in the bathroom together and I get some pee on Huey, is that not okay? Huey like, why would I be in the bathroom with you? He's like, shut up. All right, listen. What if when I was littler, I used to have accidents? What if you was in the bed and I wet the bed? And so at this, yeah, you still have accidents, right? But Tom Dubois is like, yeah, Riley, you can't just pee on kids. And so Riley says, well, what about personal responsibility? She saw piss coming, she stayed. I see piss coming, I move. Why should I have to just move out on the why should I have to miss out on the next R. Kelly album just for that? He got ate up by an 8-year-old, y'all. Debbie on the street corner. I knew at that point this wasn't gonna end well for him in the trial, Mari.
Yeah, this is the breakout episode for Riley. This is where you now understand where what Riley's spot in the satire is. He is the degenerate of the family, right?
Mhm.
He is the one who says the views that you should not agree with, but
Yeah.
people who are ignorant and who don't understand agree with Riley and they think they're the cool ones. You know, it reminds me so much of Cartman and South Park. Like I said, I'm a big South Park fan, and how South Park and Cartman was always originally supposed to be the satirical villain, and you should, if you are ever on the same side as Cartman, you are not in the right. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that's kind of the space that Riley occupies for the Boondocks. And it's
Yeah.
supposed to be exaggerative. It's supposed to be over the top. And people are supposed to get that that is not what you should really want to ascribe to. But as the show goes on, as times change, as satire gets lost among generations, people start to connect to those characters more and more. And that's the really scary thing about
Mm.
satire is when the meaning gets lost in it and it starts to become earnest and it's for like hurtful thought processes, that's when it's like we all got to take a step back. And that's kind of the flip of the coin that we are seeing now. Even though we are seeing people who can now look at the R. Kelly trial and be like, oh, this wasn't good, we are still also getting the flip of the coin where the people are like, no, I'm still going to support all Black people no matter if they are sex trafficking people, sexual abuse. You know, we are going through
Mhm.
that like right this very second. So that's why this is one of my favorite episodes. That's why Riley is a character that's necessary. Um and that's why this is a perfect episode too, because now we have the full picture of
Mhm.
the main characters between Granddad, Huey, and Riley. And that's why this is such a stronger statement than A Good Times Black Again or Magical Negroes, because it's like not only is the satire clear, not only do we know where all the characters stand within this drama, but this funny comedy, this tale of tragedy, it's like we also are laughing our asses off, because why are we dancing in the courtroom? Why did you
Yes.
say you told Social Security on the
We
videotape?
got so much to talk about. Look, the
Yes.
satire is so loud that there are people who watch this and that like they're no disrespect, but if you like Mara said, if you listen to Riley and you think Riley's making sense, you're probably on the wrong side of what the message is. Message is
Mm.
loud too. By the end of this episode, Huey is literally shouting at the entire courtroom that this is not okay. So is doing this. Riley, the 8-year-old, is pushing this narrative. By the end, what, a 10-year-old is the one who's like telling him to, hey, bro, this is not okay. You
Yep.
also have Tom Dubois, who is there as a district attorney, saying this is not okay. But the satire is very loud. I think the message has to be equally loud, and I think that might be something else that I probably lost a little bit in Good Times Black Again. But this trial is absurd from the very opening statements. This white lawyer who his entire platform is, are we gonna really let this so-called mountain of evidence distract us from what this really is? Racism. Drops the mic.
Ty,
I love it so much, Ty.
how could you not like this? It's okay. Tell us.
It's
Ty, like
fine.
it's too real. I seen this already. I seen this episode.
Honestly,
Right.
I think we talked about Riley's character. I think it was very intelligently done, is because you know that child that has that ignorance and intelligence all in one
Mhm.
bag of speech for some reason, and they put you in a position where it's like, I can't combat that. Like, it's stupid as hell for you to say that, but I have no comeback for that. And
Mhm.
that's the situation with the
Badass
lawyer. It's like, it's stupid as hell for you to say that, but when you drop racism, what the fuck am I gonna say?
Right. You kind of like, well, I mean, deep down, it might be racism. You know, like, don't get me wrong, there are other things, but I'm not counting racism out that easily. You know, he also makes sure that he tells, I guess in one of the statements with the jury, he's just like, man, this is actually when he's cross-examining the young lady. So in this trial, we see R. Kelly present with his Pied Piper of R&B mask on, just in case you didn't know it's R. Kelly, as if he wore the mask to the trial the entire time. They have flutes in the background, like that like Step in the Name of Love, like pan flute in the background. So you know it's R. Kelly as well. But we end up with the little girl on the stand, and I believe the lawyer says, and would you consider yourself an African American woman? And she says, nigga, is you blind? You know. And he makes that point just to then look at the crowd and say, well, R. Kelly's clearly attracted to his strong black women, but unlike the prosecutor, Mr. Dubois, who's married to a white woman, and then you see him just lose the jury completely. They're like, oh, we're done, peace out, it's a wrap. I'm sorry, Mari, I just love this episode so much. It's so quotable too.
It's so quotable. I feel like I know like all of the major lines. And again, it's just so prescient, you know, and to really, I did not realize like that this premiered before the trial, his first acquittal. And it's just like his lawyers must have watched this episode.
And that was their defense.
Yeah, so that was their defense. She was like, you know, I could have moved out the way. I didn't.
If I didn't want to get beat on, I would have moved. They're like, and Riley in the background said, I told you.
That's R. Kelly. It got RK on his damn butt cheeks.
He got a tattoo. Yes, this is Robert Kelly. Oh, my social. Yeah.
His face. And then he's like, this man has an NAACP Image Award. And somebody's like, I got one of those too. It's just so absurd. And I mean, like, I don't know. It's really hard for me to describe like why this is one of my favorite episodes, especially when like the downfall, because like full disclosure, me and my mom were like the biggest R. Kelly fans growing up. Like truly, like she was a huge R. Kelly fan. And it would be Michael Jackson number 1, R. Kelly number 2, like in our car on rotation. And I remember this trial happening. I remember like just people feeding into the like, oh, they knew what she was doing. Oh, this is money. Oh, she's not even pressing charges. Oh, the aunt is crazy. Like I remember all of those type of things, and just being like, okay, well, we're still listening. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until I saw Surviving R. Kelly. It wasn't until the later accusations. It wasn't until like you're like old enough to really digest what's going on that I'm like, wow, I have literally not listened to that dude since. You know what I'm saying? As someone who it was such a big part of my life. But I just think that the fact that you could take something so like sad, because I think the Read also did a really good job of explaining why it's hard for people to let go of R. Kelly and to accept the things that he did, because a lot of his songs were used to like highlight people's best moments in their lives and stuff like that. But to take that something that's like that almost like tragic, but making it so incredibly funny, while also again just pointing out like, why didn't we care? Like the documentary says the same thing. Like, why did it take so long for people to care about what R. Kelly was doing to young Black girls? You know what I'm saying? And it really, really, really takes a mirror to like us as a people. Sorry, I'm like going on and on about it, but it was just like a cultural. It's such a cultural touch point, like within our community, you know.
And honestly, to that point, I don't think the episode is as satirical or as absurd. Sadly. Because a lot of the reasoning for him to be not guilty were things that people were saying. It was just the outlandish stuff like the flute and stuff that was
the mask.
that was the satirical part of it. But even the video, it was the video evidence and all that came up. Into it was like, no, it's too blurry and blah blah blah. And granted, it was a little blurry, but still, like you knew it was that nigga.
It was 05. Yeah, everything was blurry in 05. We didn't know what focus was back then. Okay. We didn't know what focus was back then. But you're right. You're right.
Somebody had access to child pornography back in the day.
Right. First of all, and it was a whole bunch of grown folks talking about they seen the R. Kelly tape. Why would you watch that? We were children, so we bow out of this one. Why would y'all watch that? If someone was telling y'all R. Kelly was pissing on a kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, why didn't you opt out? You should just take somebody's word for it. Be like, I'm not the prosecutor.
It was being emailed around, like
right.
And the attachment to it, like somebody, I remember it was an episode of Chappell show, and he was just in a court, and somebody asked him a question about Michael Jackson. He said he made Thriller.
Yeah,
Thriller. Right.
That's pretty much. Like, do we have to? Yeah, it's like, do we have to address this, or do I just need to drop all his accolades? They did talk about R. Kelly's in his Image Award, and so they do get into that, but the episode really comes to a head when it's clear that nothing that anybody can say is going to get these people to vote against R. Kelly to rule against him. Mr. Dubois is like me, completely pleading with the crowd. People, you saw the tape. The girl testified she was underage. You're not allowed to do that to a little girl. We have a tape. And the one woman juror says, go tell that to your white bitch. And it was like, well, sorry, Mr. Dubois. Sorry, Tom. And so things get out of control. It's R. Kelly then jumped up on the desk. They're listening to the music. People were dancing. Even the judge is into it. Huey has to stop the music, and this is why I say the message gets really loud, because Huey stops the music and he says, "What the hell is wrong with you people? Every famous nigga that gets arrested is not Nelson Mandela. Yes, the government conspires to put a lot of innocent black men in jail for fallacious charges, but R. Kelly is not one of those men. We all know the nigga can sing. But what happened to standards? What happened to bare minimum? You a fan of R. Kelly? You want to help R. Kelly? To get R. Kelly some counseling, introduce him to some older women, hide his camcorder, but don't pretend like the man is a hero, and stop the damn dance and act like you got some goddamn sick people. Tired of playing with y'all." Huey was done, Mar. This is my favorite Huey moment. My favorite Huey moment, because somebody had to sing it.
Yeah, and I think just like you said, like if the satire is loud, the message has to be louder, and they do such a good job of. And this is not the last time they do this, So it was so good and such a great way to close off the episode, and since because Huey gets the message across, and people are like, okay, and scoot,
Music. Like, hey, you with the afro, cut it out, turn that music back on. Hey, y'all know I've been booing people on podcasts for 4 years now. That's directly from the Boondocks. I cannot take credit for that. Boo. This is boy. Boo.
Oh my god.
It's again a message. We get to the message, and it's clear. It's painless. You don't have to wonder like what they're trying to say to us. You don't have to think like I keep coming back to this. I watched a few more episodes of Good Times Black Again, and the period episode that or even the episode about the Adderall, are the dreams and the artistic scenario. I appreciate the artistic value of that, but also I don't fucking get it. I don't get it all the way. I need somebody to clearly explain it to me and let me know what the hell is going on here. And I think they did a good job with that one at the end of this one.
The other storyline in this episode, it's the B story. Granddad's hanging out with Uncle Ruckus. And so if you didn't already know who Uncle Ruckus was from episode 1, they really let you know that who Uncle Ruckus is this time, because Uncle Ruckus is a self-hating black man. He does not believe that he's black. He actually thinks that he's white, and he's got revitiligo, the opposite thing of that Michael Jackson got, I just gets it darker and blacker and darker, And he's sitting here spending his entire time with Robert Freeman, really talking about why the white man is superior. He talks about Kobe Bryant. He talks about the opposite between the difference between R. Kelly and Jerry Lee Lewis, the king of rock and roll. We even see a flashback of Uncle Ruckus, the time he sat on a jury, and I believe there was a blind man being tried for murder. Mari, is that what was happening?
Yes, a blind man being tried for shooting like 3 white women from 50 yards away.
With a rifle, by the way. Across a football field with a rifle. Blind.
And that nigga did it. Hang that nigga.
Guilty. That nigga is guilty. Yeah. I got the rope right here. Yeah. So throughout, Granddad's talking to Uncle Ruckus, and he's trying to get Uncle Ruckus to understand, like, hey, bro, white people ain't did all that stuff for you. Like, stop it. They didn't do all this to help you. You're a victim. You're a victim. You really. And so he's really trying to get him to understand that. By the end, Granddad's about done, but Uncle Ruckus knows where home is, and he's kind of like, okay, all right, well, I said what I said, but also, let's make up. I think he said, turn the other cheek and let me hang out with you some more, something like that. So Uncle Ruckus is an interesting character throughout. What was it? Hold on. Was it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think they were playing checkers, right? Or chess or whatever. Yeah, checkers. And Granddad beats him. And by the end, Uncle Ruckus is like, hey, where you going? You can't leave me behind. And that's where we get Huey's closing monologue about, how you try to help Black folk, but sometimes they just don't want to be helped. And that's okay. You do what you can. And, I guess you're supposed to love Black people regardless of what happens. Like, these are our people. We're supposed to love them. You can hold them accountable, but you still have to have a general love in your heart for Black people. And I think the last words Huey says is, you can't blame this one on the white man, the R. Kelly situation. And then he pauses and says, or maybe you can. And then that's the end of the episode. And I don't know, for me, that episode hits all the points that I needed to hit, right? Like, there's no change made. Like, Huey said, I battled with ignorance today, and ignorance won. He points out that I lost that fight, but you keep fighting. Huey doesn't stop being a protester, does not stop being a young freedom fighter. He just keeps doing it. He keeps moving on. Granddad doesn't leave Uncle Ruckus behind. He deals with Uncle Ruckus and he tries to uplift Uncle Ruckus. And these Black folks were not ready to let go of R. Kelly at the time. Hopefully, a lot of them have changed their opinions, Mari. But we know that a lot of them have not. Like you said, we have relatives that are, I still listen to R. Kelly, and I'm like, and I still wish you would it.
I literally told the DJ at my wedding not to play R. Kelly.
I haven't heard. Yeah,
I told them not to play R. Kelly and not to play Happy by Pharrell, because at that point it was just too much.
Okay, listen, that's disrespectful and anti-Black.
It was too
much. I should have been in that video. Every time I hear Happy, I'm like, where was I at? Why wasn't I? Where was I when they got to filming that one? But yeah, so that's our 2 episodes of the Boondocks. I think the R. Kelly trial episode, it really does encapsulate a lot of what the Boondocks is. It's just like, here's the mirror. Here's the mirror for Black people to look at each other. And I think that honestly, it does a good job of shining the light on white people as well, in a way that doesn't make it feel like the Black people are the butt of the joke. I think in good times, it feels like, dang, we laughing at these people's poverty almost, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in the Boondocks, the first episode, Riley's describing white people as white people. They say the whole word like this, and white people take time out to study, and white people arrest you, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like, we're laughing at these very true things about white people, even though they're bigger statements to be made, but we're not laughing at the expense of Black people, right? And so there are definitely moments that lean into that in the Boondocks, but a lot of times you do have Huey as the character who was trying to remind you that, yeah, this is ignorance and it's funny, but also this is satire, this is real life, and a lot of this stuff is really happening today. You need to open your eyes and look around and make sure you're not a part of the problem, because many people are watching the Boondocks, Ty, and they don't realize it's satire. They think they're all Riley. All the Rileys think that the Boondocks is here for their entertainment and not to learn anything about it.
Yeah, and that brings the question to me, and something that I've kind of learned as we talked about these satirical shows and movies and such, is that and I don't have the solution for it, and that kind of aligns with what we've been talking about with Boondocks. It doesn't bring us a solution, neither does Good Times. Are there limits to what we can be satirical about? Is that the issue? You know what I mean? Like, should there be things that we just can't be? Like, is poverty one of those things that is hard to be satirical about in the way that Good Times does it? Or was there something else in there that just didn't hit the mark? You know, because granted, both of these shows, as you mentioned, you know, had disdain for them, but it sounds like they had disdain for them for maybe even different reasons, you know? You know, so maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's the concern. Maybe that's the thing that didn't come across like the creators of Good Times Black Again was expecting it to come across. Maybe I need to watch more. Or maybe I need to change my mindset about things. I don't know. That's what I came to the conclusion of as we talked about this stuff. Is just, you know, I need to just investigate what can we be satirical about, or what am I open to people being satirical about personally. That's and also I gotta watch Boondocks with a 2005 mind, not a 2024 mind.
I think honestly, I think it still hits with the 2024 mind. I ain't gonna lie to you, because I had some good laughs this time too. But to your point, those we talked about a little bit earlier. People did have some issues with some of the stuff that the Boondocks are talking about. At some point, the Boondocks will parody Martin Luther King, and to the point where Reverend Al Sharpton literally demanded that Cartoon Network issue an apology for airing an episode about Martin Luther King. So there are some things that people think are just too precious. They then made fun of Reverend Al Sharpton quite a lot on on the Boondocks in several different ways. But yeah, there were definitely points where people said, this is too much. Why is this child cursing like this? Why are you laughing at Martin Luther King? Why are you making light of the civil rights movement? You know, I believe they go to kidnap Oprah at one point and accidentally get Maya Angelou. You know, like there are definitely moments where people are just like, wait a minute, you can't do that, but we do it anyway. And the Boondocks is one of those cartoons that has stood the test of time as far as like people's reverence for it. I wonder if a show like Good Times Black Again can ever get to that point in 2024, Mari.
I want to keep watching, and I got to see was it Gangstalicious or was it Thugnificent that's like out as like a gay rapper? I want to see how they
that would be Gangstalicious. Yeah. So yes. So things to come. Gangstalicious. Yeah, the story of Gangstalicious. He will be outed as a homosexual rapper, and that will send shockwaves through the community, but starting right at Granddad's home with Riley Freeman. We also have guest hosts coming to dinner as Granddad starts dating a woman of the night.
That's the first episode, and it's so good. Yeah.
The third episode, yes. The third episode, yeah. So there's a lot to come, Mari. Yeah, does she run really, really fast in high heels? You know,
game recognized good game, Granddad. And right now you looking real unfamiliar.
Your granddaddy knows the game. Your granddaddy knows the game.
Yes, it like the Boondocks, the power of the Boondocks, when it's in retrospect, might be way more powerful than when it was out, you know, because again,
relevant.
there you go. Like because we weren't ready. Maybe it was ahead of its time. But also I would like to say, like Ty's like, well, what can we be satirical about? Unfortunately, I don't know if this is gonna come off very pessimistic or very like snobby or something like that, but I think the overall comprehension it's down. I feel like comprehension itself is down among the people, all of the people, the American people. So satire is very hard to pull off nowadays because you know there's so many different methods and ways to entertain ourselves. There's so much information being available to us that it's hard to separate the information that is earnest and satirical, especially when we're not being taught how to see that, how to properly identify information that's coming at us. I mean, we're seeing that with the TikTok ban, the excuse of the TikTok ban right now. It's like, so that's why I think satire is a little bit harder to do it now, because people can't comprehend satire the way that we used to. Also, the world is fucking nuts right now. So what can we be satirical about? Because the most outlandish thing is actually happening right this
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's so much out there to be satirical about, but I honestly I push back a little bit, Mari. I read an article recently that was talking about how the Gen Zers and the younger generation, it's not that they're not knowledgeable about, you know, some of the satire, is that they're over it. They're a little stuffy.
Yeah.
We didn't raise some shrewd kids that like to know what they know. They look for it on TikTok. They do the deep dives into all these things, and they have deep wells of knowledge about this stuff, and they have little patience for things that could be problematic. You know, the TikTokers are gonna cancel you before anybody else does. Ironically enough, they're the ones getting canceled. But yeah, they're not gonna stand for that. I think we were talking about Sex in the City on Nothing But Netflix, and it was like, oh yeah, like people don't go up for some of the characters because they're like, nah, it's
Carrie
yeah,
with Mr. Big in his house.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah, I think the idea was that they're all Charlottes. Like Gen Z is the Charlotte generation. And I'm like, oh yeah, like and I've only seen the 2 episodes, but I understand what they're saying. You know, like they're just kind of
what they're saying.
They're kind of stuffy, and so you know you can't throw talking roaches and cartoon characters at this particular time period and think that people gonna latch onto it immediately. Because like they need that message to be loud. They need to know that they're watching something that's not cancelable. They're looking to write the manager right now. Like I'm so freaking pissed. You know, like they're looking for that moment immediately. And I think that the Boondocks is one of those shows where you get it. It hits you over the head with the satire. I think that American Magical Negress, you know, I think that and I think Good Times Black Again. I think it might be a little. It does not hit the message loud enough on either of those to make this generation really stop down and appreciate it for what it is.
I just part too. Timing, yeah, too. It does. I just hate when people be like, the Boondocks couldn't come out now because everybody would get canceled. You just stated that like when it came out back then, people were trying to cancel it. So it's like yeah. The Boondocks, it's tiptoed into such deep waters. The Boondocks has talked about Tyler Perry in a way, like was like the first to really.
I heard about that. Yes.
Yeah, and that one got yanked. The Boondocks talked about BET. That one got yanked from television as well. If you got the DVD, and I think if you have HBO Max, it is available. But there's definitely several episodes of Boondocks that people thought these are not appropriate for television, or the people they were about really put their foot down and said, "I'm not going to let you say these things about me." And so a lot of that on the horizon. If you are to continue watching the Boondocks, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the Boondocks, this is your official endorsement. Go check it out. But also maybe start looking at these satirical properties and satirical shows and things of that nature, and start looking at them for what they are. This is satire. I'm going in. It's not a serious take on these things, but there's a serious message in there, and I have to digest it. And I think that if Black Again was very upfront about how much satire was involved with it, people would have showed up and been expecting some of the clownery that they ended up getting, because I think that it just doesn't hit the mark in the same way that the Boondocks does after talking it through with the two of you. So that said, Ty, what do you think about the Boondocks?
I'm watching it. I'm definitely watching it. Like that if there's anything that you could say, that first episode, and I know y'all love the second episode, that first episode sets the tone. Like I was crying, laughing the whole time. So is that right there just got me interested. I want to see the growth of the characters, Riley and Huey, like I mentioned before. I want to see how far Uncle Ruckus go. Does he change? Does he stay his ways?
These characters do not grow. These are the character you got today is the character you always gonna get. Yeah.
Okay. So either way, I'm still intrigued. And so I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward with the Boondocks. I'm ready for Mari. Whenever you get back from your well-deserved maternity leave, for us to kind of rehash the 4 seasons or whatever we want to do with that.
Yeah.
And I might have a top 5 at that point. You know what I mean? So, I'm down for it. And one last thing, take Black Again away from the name of the damn show, please.
Good Times, Black Again. Black Biggie, Black Biggie. Thank you so much, Ty. You working on anything else? Where can the people find you?
On recapkickback.com. So please go to recapkickback.com/subscribe. That's where you can find me.
Amen. And Mari, thank you again. I mean, Mari, this might be our last conversation for a while. You want to drop some of our Boondocks quotes on us real quick? Or are you about to go?
Gangsta-licious. My rhyme's so vicious. I eat niggas for breakfast. Delicious.
Delicious.
I wish I could remember the other. I used to have the other part of it down, but yeah, I love the Boondocks. I can't wait to go back and watch some more of it, though.
Yeah. And Mari, I guess while you're gone, is there anything that you got coming out soon? I mean, what crime scene? What's going on?
No, just go over to Crime Scene. The last episode with me just dropped. My pregnancy brain, right? I can't tell you what we talked about. Just go to rawpasswebsite.com/crime scene /crime feed in order to subscribe there. Sarah's still carrying on. She's gonna have some great guests. Plus, I'll be probably dropping like some speak pipes about some stuff. Like I'll record a little something and she'll add them in there for stuff I really got to talk about. So just go and subscribe and keep us going while my maternity leave. While I'm on maternity leave.
All right. And as for me, I love this show. I'm sorry. I could legit do a daily Boondocks podcast if I wanted to by myself because it's just amazing. It really is. So much to come. Kumite Kung Fu Wolf Bitch is coming soon. Mr. Stink Meaner is coming soon. Bushido Brown will pop up. Rollo Good Love.
What do you say? Damn, I think to myself, damn, what did he do to make them niggas so mad?
Niggas so mad. That's the Mari quote. And I think to myself, damn. What did he do? So bad. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So check us out here on Recap Kickback all the time to get that kind of content and more. Let us know if you want to hear more Boondocks content. Get here in the comments and tell us what you want to hear. If you want Boondocks recap, Boondocks top 5, all that good stuff. And then of course check me out in all these other places. Ty, is that you got the church finger up?
Yeah, and just because we said niggas don't mean you can say niggas.
Don't go and be like Chappell, Mari, and Ty be saying these words, so we gonna say these words. We gave you the disclaimer. We were talking about this show.
They said it's okay if they say it. So
it's okay if they say it. Yeah, it's exactly. They start clapping. Yeah, it's not okay if y'all say it. It's my word, and y'all can't take it from me. But anyway, but check it out, and let us know again in the comments. Let us know if you want to hear more coverage of the Boondocks. It's a blast from the past, but fun social issues to digest there, and I think we can have fun talking about it. Also, recently I guested on the Was It Good Though podcast talking about the Nutty Professor. Literally clownery over there. We kept the same energy as the movie. I stole that from them, and so just know that clowned over there too. Some words over there that I said that you do not repeat because I can say it and y'all can't. But if you can, you can. The ones who know. The ones who don't, don't find out in the hard way, But check me out on the Was It Good Though podcast. I'll put the link to their podcast in the show notes as well because they were so much fun to talk to and talk about. They have an Insecure panel coming up, Mari. I'll try to keep you in mind if you're still around, but I think you might still be on maternity leave for that. But yeah, tune in, go subscribe, throw them 5-star reviews, and let them know that Chappell sent you. Also here on Recap Kickback, Latanya and I are going to be teaming up to talk about the new Zendaya movie, Challengers. So check that out. You can hear Sasha and I talking about Below Deck on RHAP, but then also talking about Summer House Martha's Vineyard here on Recap Kickback. Gia and I are talking about Abbott Elementary whenever we can get a podcast out to you. It's been a busy time, so wait on that and then check out that podcast as well. And then, of course, let us know what you think. Send us your emails at recapkickback@gmail.com to let us know what you want us to talk about. Until then, for Tyrone, for Mari, and for me, Flownominal, that's Chappell at Recap Kickback. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.